Hello everyone, Skippy here, and welcome to One Piece episode 975, directed by Katsumi Tokoro and supervised by Kazuya Hisada. Alrighty, this episode here has a lot going for it, with former character designer Kazuya Hisada being one of the strongest and one of my own personal favorite supervisors on the show currently, which absolutely carries on over to what we can see from the preview corrections and action-wise, as it's chock full of his angular yet exaggerated and looser style. I may be a bit afraid about why Tokoro is helming this episode, because it hasn't been too long since his Laugh Tale episode in 968, and I wonder what that will mean for this episode's ending quality given his so-and-so nature on the show in recent years. But from what we can see, it doesn't look like his storyboard is skipping a single beat and may possibly be on the better end of what he's delivered on the show recently. So there may be no real reason to worry, and we may end up getting yet another solid episode as this flashback closes its doors little by little. So will episode 975 follow up last week by solidly kicking off this flashback's remaining aftermath? Let's promise to fulfill Oden's wishes and find out. This episode covers the remaining 3 pages of chapter 972 and the first 10.5 pages of chapter 973. And as one of the chapters that signifies to me that the ending of this flashback was a bit rushed in the manga, I'm very happy that they took some major liberties with this one to really get you to dig into the story more. From adding scenes of the citizens yelling at Orochi and the Scabbards meeting and discussing their next course of action at the start, to heavily rearranging a few moments like the flashbacks at the start of chapter 973, specifically so they feel more in place with Momo remembering his late father and Inu and Neko arguing within the filler, 975 really lets the content bathe to expand upon what the manga simply glossed over, and also builds it a better structure at the same time, making certain scenes like the aforementioned flashbacks just feel more connected instead of slapping them where they were in the manga, and not spending much time on the stuff that the anime has shown multiple times over now, like Kawamatsu grabbing Hiyori and swimming away. Sure, this leads to some small panels that weren't all that rushed to be cut or altered a bit in their execution in order for it to work in the rest of the episode, but I don't really think it matters all that much when it brings together a much more structured and less fast-paced episode, even if specifically anime watchers have seen parts of the specific plot point numerous times before, helping it soak in its own juices and making it just another great example of how the anime can expand where the manga left off, even if the changes seem rather simple in hindsight when a good portion of the episode still follows the beats of the original chapters. Just overall, as someone who loves the Oden flashback to its core, it's a level of adaptation that I was absolutely looking for, and I'm glad that it wasn't closer to the manga in a lot of different ways. While right off the bat I can say that Tokoro's board is certainly not as good as his efforts from 968, I still found there to be a lot to love in this one. With loads of simple but really beautiful shots of both inside Oden Castle and out, Tokoro may not do anything new or innovative with this section of the flashback, but everything still feels solidly put together and in no way, shape, or form feels phoned in, even if it may not be as imaginative as some of the storyboards from the younger staff. And when Tokoro brings it, he really brings it to the table, with the shot in particular of Toki's blood spilling out of her as the moon's reflection shines through it being the most clear-cut example of such. Sure, a bit of his compositing choices like the fire texture specifically do feel a bit much, but it doesn't really hurt what I'd consider an overall nice board from him. And when Kazuya Hisada's sharp but still looser corrections are for the most part still as polished as they've been lately, despite a few stragglers that aren't the prettiest, which are accompanied by his solid and dynamic key animation that is a bit on the tamer side of things for him, even if it's still as good as ever and gets the job done, 975 certainly won't win any awards, but my worries about it going in were quickly swallowed up by my own intuition. It firmly understood the content at hand and what really needed to be done with it to make this moment feel much more powerful and less like a highlight reel of Oden flashback scenes. And while there's a few oddities here and there on the visual end, I think I can still confidently say that this was a good episode. And my shock when we reached the next episode preview for episode 976 quickly swept away my final thoughts, as I'm a bit confused as to what's going on. The episode as a whole looks extremely solid as far as both direction and animation goes, and in fact looks like one of the flashback's strongest, but the main staff for it was supposedly former series director Toshinori Fukuzawa on the storyboard, and Magic Bus and Kawanori Animation for the direction and animation. But about a week ago, director Yutaka Nakashima tweeted that he'd be producing the storyboard for the A part of the episode, and all in all, when you look at the bigger picture, this most definitely isn't the work of either of those studios visually, as it more closely seems to resemble the supervision work of Hirotaka Ito and Eisaku Inoue. So I'll surely be looking forward to this episode in more ways than one, so we can really get answers as to just who the hell is working on it, and just so I can see what promises to be a fantastic finale for this flashback as a whole. Anyways guys, that's it for now. I'm Skippy, and Hisada's really got an obsession with thick lines recently.